I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots, or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself. Dirty Harry wasn't just a cop movie that launched Clint Eastwood into superstardom. It was a cultural earthquake that nearly destroyed careers, sparked nationwide protests, and accidentally created one of cinema's most controversial anti-heroes through a production plagued by studio battles, on-set injuries, and a script that nobody wanted to touch. Behind Eastwood's steely gaze and that iconic .44 Magnum lay a chaotic production where the lead actor was hospitalized, the director was fired mid-shoot, and real San Francisco police officers threatened to walk off set. The movie that would define action cinema for decades almost never happened, and when it did, it changed Hollywood forever in ways no one expected. Here are 20 weird facts about Dirty Harry that will make you see Inspector Callahan in a completely different light. Plus, stick around for a bonus fact that reveals the shocking real-world crime that inspired the entire movie. Let's lock and load. Fact number 1. Clint Eastwood wasn't the first choice. He was the last choice. Frank Sinatra was supposed to be Harry Callahan. The chairman of the board was Warner Brothers' dream casting, envisioning Old Blue Eyes as the tough-talking San Francisco cop. But when Sinatra injured his hand during filming and couldn't properly grip the massive .44 Magnum, the studio panicked. They frantically reached out to John Wayne, Steve McQueen, and even Paul Newman. Wayne turned it down because he thought the script was too violent. McQueen demanded script changes that would have gutted the entire story. Newman wanted nothing to do with what he called fascist filmmaking. After months of rejections, a desperate Warner Brothers executive remembered that spaghetti western guy, Clint Eastwood. It wasn't Hollywood destiny, it was Hollywood desperation. Fact number 2, the real Dirty Harry was based on a brutal serial killer case. The Zodiac Killer terrorized San Francisco just 2 years before Dirty Harry went into production. The screenplay writers, Harry Julian Fink and Rita M. Fink, weren't creating fiction. They were adapting horror. The Scorpio Killer in the movie mirrors the Zodiac's methods almost exactly. Cryptic letters to newspapers, random shootings, and demands for money. What audiences didn't know was that the real Zodiac case remained unsolved during filming. SFPD Inspector Dave Toschi, who worked the actual Zodiac investigation, served as a consultant on the movie. The irony cut deep. Hollywood was solving on screen what real police couldn't solve in life. Toschi later admitted that watching Dirty Harry was both thrilling and haunting, knowing that somewhere out there, the real killer might be watching too. Fact number 3. Clint Eastwood nearly died during the famous rooftop chase. That heart-stopping rooftop pursuit wasn't just movie magic, it was genuine terror. Eastwood insisted on doing his own stunts, despite the stunt coordinator's warnings about the crumbling buildings they were using. During one take, Eastwood leaped between 2 rooftops, and the landing surface gave way beneath him. He plummeted 12 feet through rotted wood and rusted metal, landing hard on a concrete floor below. The impact knocked him unconscious for several minutes. When he came to, blood was streaming from a gash on his forehead, and his left shoulder was dislocated. But instead of going to the hospital, Eastwood demanded they keep shooting. Harry wouldn't quit, he reportedly told director Don Siegel. Neither will I. The blood you see on Eastwood's face in the final chase sequence? That's real. Fact number 4. The studio tried to fire the director. Halfway through production. Don Siegel was a veteran director with dozens of films under his belt, but Warner Brothers executives hated what they were seeing in the dailies. They thought Siegel was making the movie too dark, too violent, and too controversial. Studio head Ted Ashley flew to San Francisco personally to fire Siegel and replace him with a more commercial director. What saved Siegel's job was Clint Eastwood's intervention. Eastwood had final cut approval and threatened to walk off the picture if they fired his director. "Don understands this character," Eastwood told the executives. "You fire him, you lose me." The studio backed down, but the tension remained. Ashley stationed a Warner Brothers executive on set for the remainder of filming to monitor every decision. Siegel later called it, "making a movie with a gun to my head." Fact number 5. The famous "Do You Feel Lucky?"
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Scene was completely improvised. The most quoted line in action movie history wasn't in the original script. The written version had Harry delivering a much longer, more traditional tough guy speech to the bank robber. But, during filming, Eastwood felt the dialogue was too wordy and asked Siegel if he could try something different. "What if Harry just cuts through all the bullshit?" Eastwood suggested. He improvised the entire "Do you feel lucky, punk?" monologue on the spot, drawing from his own frustration with overly complicated dialogue in previous films. The crew was so stunned by the delivery that they burst into applause when Siegel called cut. Even the actor playing the wounded bank robber, Albert Popwell, broke character and smiled. That single improvised moment would become the template for every action hero one-liner that followed. Fact number 6. Real San Francisco police officers walked off set in protest. The SFPD initially cooperated with the production, providing technical advisors and allowing filming at actual police locations. But when officers read the complete script and saw early footage, many were horrified by Harry's vigilante methods. They felt the movie portrayed police work as brutal and lawless. 3 weeks into filming, over 24 SFPD officers who had been working as consultants and extras walked off set. Police union representative Tony Bell issued a statement calling the movie a dangerous misrepresentation of proper police procedure. The mass walkout forced production to hire private security and use actors in police uniforms for crowd scenes. Ironically, the police protest only fueled more media attention and anticipation for the film. Fact number 7. The .44 Magnum created a real-world gun crisis. Before Dirty Harry, the .44 Magnum was an obscure hunting weapon owned primarily by serious gun collectors. After the movie's release, demand exploded so dramatically that Smith & Wesson couldn't keep up with orders. Gun stores across America reported waiting lists stretching 6 months to 2 years. But the real crisis came from the consequences. Police departments nationwide reported a spike in crimes involving 44 Magnum revolvers. The FBI documented dozens of criminals who specifically cited Dirty Harry as their inspiration for choosing the weapon. Smith & Wesson eventually had to limit production and implement stricter dealer requirements. A prop gun had become a real-world public safety issue, forcing Hollywood to reconsider how it portrayed weapons in future films. Fact number 8. The famous bridge jump was actually multiple death-defying stunts. When Harry leaps from the bridge to stop the hijacked school bus, audiences see what appears to be one continuous stunt. In reality, it required 3 separate jumps by 3 different stuntmen, each risking their lives for a few seconds of screen time. The first stuntman, Buddy Van Horn, made the initial jump from the bridge to a moving semi-truck below. The second stuntman took over for the jump from the truck to the moving bus. The third handled the final leap onto the bus roof. Each jump was calculated to within inches. Too short, and they'd be crushed under the vehicles. Too long, and they'd overshoot and hit the pavement at highway speed. No safety nets, no green screens, no CGI, just precise timing and massive brass. One stuntman broke his ribs, another suffered a concussion, but all three nailed their shots. Fact number 9. Clint Eastwood's character was based on 3 real SFPD inspectors. Harry Callahan wasn't pulled from thin air. He was a composite of 3 actual San Francisco police inspectors who worked the toughest cases in the city's history. Inspector Dave Toschi provided the methodical investigation techniques and street knowledge. Inspector Bill Armstrong contributed the philosophical conflicts with police bureaucracy. Inspector Frank Falzon supplied the hard-edged attitude and willingness to bend rules. The writers spent weeks riding along with these inspectors, witnessing real police work in one of America's most dangerous cities. What they discovered shocked them. The reality was often more intense than anything they could have invented. Toschi later admitted that seeing his investigative methods dramatized on screen was surreal. It was like watching myself in a funhouse mirror, recognizable but distorted. Fact number 10. The movie accidentally launched the serial killer genre. Before Dirty Harry, Hollywood rarely made movies about serial killers. The subject was considered too disturbing for mainstream audiences. But when Dirty Harry became a massive hit, every studio in Hollywood scrambled to develop similar projects. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because you're about to discover how one controversial cop movie accidentally created an entire genre that would dominate cinema for decades. The success of Dirty Harry directly led to films like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and eventually The Silence of the Lambs. Movie executives realized that audiences were hungry for psychological thrillers featuring methodical killers and the obsessed investigators who hunted them. What started as a simple cop movie became the blueprint for psychological horror. Fact number 11. The Scorpio killer's methods were taken from FBI case files. Andrew Robinson's chilling portrayal of the Scorpio killer wasn't just acting. It was based on extensive research into real FBI criminal profiles. The production team gained access to classified case files from multiple serial killer investigations, studying the behavioral patterns and communication methods of actual murderers. Robinson spent weeks with FBI behavioral analysts, learning how serial killers think, move, and interact with their victims. The result was so disturbing that Robinson received death threats from moviegoers who couldn't separate the actor from the character. He later revealed that playing Scorpio gave him nightmares for years. "I had to crawl inside the mind of a monster," Robinson explained. "Getting back out was harder than I expected." Fact number 12. The famous police station scene sparked a constitutional law debate. When Harry forces information out of Scorpio without reading him his rights, law schools across America began using Dirty Harry as a teaching tool for constitutional law courses. The scene perfectly illustrates the tension between effective police work and constitutional protections. Legal scholars wrote extensively about the Dirty Harry problem, the moral dilemma of breaking rules to prevent greater harm. The American Civil Liberties Union condemned the movie for glorifying police brutality, while law enforcement organizations praised it for showing the frustrations of working within legal constraints. The debate reached such intensity that several law schools made Dirty Harry required viewing for courses on criminal procedure and police ethics. Fact number 13. Eastwood's wardrobe choice created an iconic look by accident. Harry's signature look, the brown leather jacket, dark slacks, and white shirt, wasn't carefully designed by costume departments. Eastwood showed up to the first day of filming wearing his own clothes, and director Don Siegel liked the unpretentious working-class appearance. The leather jacket was Eastwood's personal jacket that he'd owned for over 5 years. The simple white shirts came from his own closet. Even the shoulder holster was Eastwood's choice, based on his research into how real detectives carried their weapons. What became one of cinema's most copied looks was just an actor wearing his regular clothes. Costume designers later tried to replicate the effortless Dirty Harry style, never quite capturing the authenticity of Eastwood's accidental fashion choice. Fact number 14. The bank robbery scene used real former criminals. To achieve authentic criminal behavior in the opening bank robbery, casting director Tim Scudamore recruited several former bank robbers who had served their time and were looking for legitimate work. These ex-convicts coached the actors on proper robbery techniques, weapon handling, and the psychology of armed crime. One former robber, who served 10 years for armed robbery, worked as a technical consultant throughout filming. He taught the actors how real criminals move, talk, and think during high-stress situations. "Hollywood always gets it wrong," he told the production team. "Real robbers are scared, desperate, and making it up as they go along." His insights transformed what could have been a generic action sequence into a genuinely tense, realistic crime scene. Fact number 15. The movie was banned in several countries for promoting vigilantism. Dirty Harry faced censorship and bans across multiple countries whose governments feared the movie would inspire copycat vigilante behavior. The United Kingdom initially refused to grant the film a certificate, calling it dangerously irresponsible. West Germany banned it entirely for 3 years. Australia required extensive cuts before allowing a limited release. Critics argued that the movie presented police brutality as heroic and encouraged citizens to take law enforcement into their own hands. Ironically, these bans only increased international interest in the film. Black market screenings became common in banned territories, and bootleg copies sold for enormous sums. The controversy turned Dirty Harry into a forbidden fruit that everyone wanted to taste. Fact number 16. The hijacked school bus scene was inspired by real events. The climactic school bus hijacking wasn't fictional. It was based on the 1976 Chowchilla kidnapping, where 26 children and their bus driver were buried alive in an underground bunker. Though the movie predated this specific incident, the screenwriters drew from similar cases of mass kidnappings that had occurred throughout the 1960s. Child psychologist Dr. Lenore Terror, who worked with kidnapping victims, consulted on the emotional authenticity of the child actors' performances. She ensured that the children's reactions to trauma appeared genuine, without actually traumatizing the young performers. The result was a scene that felt disturbingly real because it was rooted in real psychological responses to terror. Fact number 17. Eastwood's famous squint wasn't acting. It was a medical condition. Clint Eastwood. Signature squint, which became Harry Callahan's most recognizable feature, resulted from chronic eye sensitivity that Eastwood developed during his spaghetti western years. Filming in harsh desert sunlight without proper eye protection had damaged his vision, making him naturally squint in bright lighting. Rather than hiding this condition, Eastwood and director Siegel incorporated it into Harry's character. They positioned lights and shot angles to emphasize the squint, turning a medical issue into a character trait. The squint suggested suspicion, intensity, and barely controlled anger, perfect for a character who saw the worst in human nature every day. What audiences interpreted as brilliant character acting was actually Eastwood managing a real physical condition. Fact number 18. The movie's budget was slashed. Mid-production, forcing creative solutions. Warner Brothers cut Dirty Harry's budget by 30% halfway through filming after early cost overruns. This forced the production team to find creative alternatives to expensive set pieces and special effects. Many of the movie's most memorable scenes resulted from these budget constraints. The famous foot chase through San Francisco's hilly streets was originally planned as an elaborate car chase with multiple vehicles and extensive property damage. Budget cuts forced them to put Eastwood on foot, creating a more personal, intense pursuit that became far more effective than the original concept. The climactic confrontation at the quarry was also a budget-driven location choice, but the stark, isolated setting proved perfect for the final showdown between Harry and Scorpio. Fact number 19. Real crime rates in San Francisco dropped after the movie's release. An unexpected consequence of Dirty Harry's success was a temporary decrease in violent crime rates in San Francisco. Police statisticians documented a noticeable drop in armed robberies and assaults during the 3 months following the film's release. Criminologists theorized that the movie's portrayal of swift, brutal justice deterred some potential criminals who feared encountering a Dirty Harry-type officer. However, this effect was temporary, and crime rates returned to normal levels within 6 months. Some police departments across the country reported that the movie helped with recruitment, as more people applied to become police officers after seeing Eastwood's heroic portrayal. Fact number 20. The sequel was written before anyone knew the first movie would be a hit. Screenwriter John Milius began writing Magnum Force before Dirty Harry even finished filming. He was so convinced that Eastwood's portrayal would resonate with audiences that he immediately started developing a follow-up story. Milius spent the remainder of Dirty Harry's production period researching police corruption and vigilante groups within law enforcement. His early confidence proved prophetic. Dirty Harry became one of 1971's biggest hits, and Magnum Force went into production within 2 years. The speed of sequel development was almost unprecedented in Hollywood, where success was usually followed by years of committee meetings and script revisions. Bonus fact: the real Zodiac Killer attended the movie's premiere. The most chilling fact about Dirty Harry remained hidden for decades. In 2007, retired SFPD Inspector Dave Toschi revealed that the Zodiac Killer likely attended the movie's San Francisco premiere at the North Point Theater on December 22, 1971. Security footage from that night showed a man matching witness descriptions of the Zodiac entering the theater alone and sitting in the back row. The man wore sunglasses despite the evening screening and left immediately when the credits rolled, avoiding the lobby crowds. Most disturbing was a letter received by the San Francisco Chronicle 3 days later, written in the Zodiac's distinctive cipher style, that referenced specific scenes from the movie that had been cut from all trailers and promotional materials. The killer had watched his own crimes dramatized on the big screen, sitting anonymously among hundreds of unsuspecting moviegoers. Dirty Harry wasn't just entertainment. It was an inadvertent conversation between Hollywood and one of America's most notorious unsolved cases. The movie that made Clint Eastwood a legend also gave a real killer the recognition he craved, blurring the line between fiction and reality in ways that still disturb investigators today. The legacy of Dirty Harry extends far beyond action cinema. It changed how movies portrayed law enforcement, influenced real-world policing strategies, and created a template for anti-hero protagonists that continues to shape entertainment today. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that make us uncomfortable, forcing us to confront questions about justice, morality, and the price of safety in an imperfect world. If these facts surprised you, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments which revelation shocked you most. Because in the world of movie secrets, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky enough to miss the next video? Well, do you, punk?